Welcome, everybody. Please have a seat. Thank you very, very much. I'm very happy that all of you have come to participate in my mother's Shloshim. And you're welcome to come move up. There are some extra seats over here in the front. There's no extra charge. Please feel free to come. And don't worry, when we have the video, with some very special videos, and we're going to move the table to the side so everyone will be able to see Mizat Hashem. We actually just moved the video over here in order that the women should be able to see properly. We did that today. Okay. We are all gathered here today that tonight, Yud Aleph Adar, is my mother's Shloshim. After 30 days have completed, after the day of the burial, there are 30 complete days, and the day afterwards is considered the quote-unquote Shloshim, which means 30. Shloshim, the reason why we mark the Shloshim is because there are different levels when the neshama is here, and at each level, the neshama has an aliyah. The neshama has an elevation. For example, at the end of the Shiva, at the end of the Shloshim, at the end of the 11 months, at the end of the year, and every year thereafter. Now, some people, many people actually, mistakenly think that when it comes to aliyah, it means elevated. The neshama goes higher, and the neshama goes further away from us. But in fact, that's not the case. It does not mean that aliyah, the neshama has an aliyah, an elevation, that it goes away from us. On the contrary, it actually means it's even stronger, it's connected to us in a stronger way than it was before. Because before the passing, the neshama had limitations of the body. But after the passing, then there are opportunities for the neshama to connect, especially to those that it was connected to while the person was alive. And so therefore, the Shloshim is an opportunity mainly for us to make a seal. If there's one idea, one concept why we've come together, is to make a seal, a culmination of the entire Mishnah, as we'll explain soon. In fact, my father, Hashem should give him lots of health, Bezrat Hashem, for many happy years, with nachas from all of us, is arranging a very, very big event tonight. In other words, same time, 8 to 9, in Beis Yaakov High School. For those of you that know Toronto, they have a big hall, but it's not just because they have a big hall. It's very moving to us because my mother, when she came inspired to be connected to Yiddishkeit, she wanted to come to a Jewish school. She wanted to go to Beis Yaakov. So she went to the principal and she said, it was middle of grade 11. She said, I want to sign up. He said, but you don't have any background whatsoever in learning of Torah. She said, doesn't matter, I'll catch up. And it took a while, but my mother never took no for an answer. He ended up accepting her into Beis Yaakov High School. Within a year or so, she caught up what regular people learn from grade 1 until grade 11. And after she finished Beis Yaakov High School, she went to Beis Rivka, the Chabad school in Yer, which is about a half hour from Paris, in France, for about 2.5 years until she married my father. So it's very special that the Shloshim in Toronto will be held in Beis Yaakov High School. You might notice over here that we have 5 candles. The main reason why I lit the 5 candles right now is because just to emphasize that in Chabad, it's a custom that when one is a chazan, one leads the minyan in memory of a loved one, so we light 5 candles corresponding to the 5 levels of the neshama. Throughout the year, we light 1 candle at home. It's usually the tall candles for the 7 days, but it's okay, of course, as long as it's constant. And there are 5 levels of the neshama: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida. Yechida is the highest level. Chaya and Yechida are the levels, the highest levels, which are usually, ordinarily, they remain above. And the three lower levels are enclosed in the body. Now, the neshama is entirely one. And so it's very special that we're lighting the five candles, because in fact the neshama. Okay, so for those that are actually, yeah, for those that are on Zoom, for those that are on Zoom, okay, מצוין, תודה רבה. ממש אני מאוד מעריך שהגעת. And so the neshama, אפשר לעשות להשתיק. As we were saying before, that the neshama is the most important part of the person. In fact, the Rebbe once told a special woman that came to me in Nachlaot when I was here for 24 hours towards the end of the Shiva, Rebbe Sharfstein, the Rebbe told she was very, very sad about the passing of her parents and the passing of her daughter, unfortunately. And the Rebbe told her that when you talk to a person, in life, of course, you're talking to a person. Who are you talking to? You're talking to the personality. You're not talking to the nose. You're not talking to their clothes. You're talking to the personality. The personality is there even after the passing, even on a greater level than before. When we come together, it's important that we, for any reason, it's important that we say together Tehillim for our soldiers, especially now as they're preparing seemingly to go into Gaza very soon, and for all those that have been injured during the current war. And for the quick return of all of the hostages, please rise as we say together, Perek Kuf Chaf Aleph, chapter 121 in the Tehillim. Shir la ma'alot, Esa einai el ha'harim, me'ayin yavo ezri, ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz, al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha, hinei lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael, Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha, yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha u'vo'echa, me'ata v'yad olam. You can now be seated. Efshar l'shevet. I'm sure that at this event, my mother's neshama is right here, and occasionally I'm going to speak directly to my mother. Mommy, I remember when you called me to inform me that you were diagnosed with a terrible sickness a year and a half ago, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Soon thereafter, we made a great effort for you to have your surgery. And I want to tell you, I told you then, and I want to say it now again. Our community has said a tremendous amount of Tehillim for you. The Tehillim before your surgery, your first surgery, and thereafter, when things were looking more serious, throughout the year plus. Before the first surgery, I got 2,000 wafers. I went to all the schools in Yerushalayim, a few of the schools in Yerushalayim that I have a contact with. And we got all the children to say Tehillim and to say a bracha on the wafer in your zechut. And I remember that you told me that while you were in the surgery, that you felt that all of the thousands of people that said Tehillim were standing there with you, giving you a bracha, holding your hand through the difficult time. I remember about 3.5 months ago, I was standing right over here, right after Shacharis in the morning. My mother never called me at 8:15 in the morning. Doesn't work according to the time zones. I was afraid to hear what my mother was going to say, but my mother was before the surgery 2 months before her passing, and she asked me to send an email to inform all of my siblings, to call within the next 24 hours before the surgery to ask for forgiveness, to make up, to strengthen our bond, to wish each other only good things. It took me a very long time to write that email. But Mommy, I did what you said. At the end of this of the Shloshim, we're going to give out a very special booklet that my sister Shayna put together. My mother, one of the many amazing things that my mother did was that for the Mishlach Manot that she would send out, some of you here know her very well, and I'm sure some of you received the Mishlach Manot. She would write a poem based on a Sicha of the Rebbe, a Maimer of the Rebbe, and it was always a very deep poem, and we made a bunch of copies. So right at the end of the Shloshim, we're going to give this out. Also, we have a very special video of my mother speaking a month and a half before her passing. And that's going to be a little bit later on in the program. About a month before my mother's passing, you might be familiar with GEM. GEM is Jewish Educational Media, and every Motzei Shabbat, right after Shabbat, we watch a weekly video of the Rebbe. And once a year, my mother would always dedicate 1 week of the video in honor of the simchas that are happening in the family. And this is a very special message that I want to say to my daughter, Miri. Throughout the last half a year, Miri keeps asking me, is Bubi coming to my bas mitzvah? Miri's going to be bas mitzvah B'ezrat Hashem in Sivan in about 4 months. Is Bubi coming to my bas mitzvah? Is Bubi coming to my bas mitzvah? And I keep telling her, B'ezrat Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem. Hopefully we're davening, we're doing everything we can. You can't imagine how much my parents want to be here. My father, Sheikhya. And to be by the simchas is the most important part of my parents. And so a month before my mother's passing, my friend Yechiel, who works in GEM, calls my mother, obviously not knowing anything my mother is going through. And he asked her if she wants to have another, he wants to dedicate the video. And she said yes. 2 days after mother's passing, he sends me a message, of course, with the Nachlaot. And he says, if you want to do it, we'll do it. I wasn't sure which week it's going to be. And then I came back here to Eretz Yisrael, and I see we're watching the video. Is Rabbi Diamond here? Yeah. Rabbi Diamond, b'vakasha. I'm going to get back to this in a second. But here's the video that came on in middle of, right at the last day of the Shiva. The Shiva finished on Shabbos. And my mother dedicated for 2 granddaughters, Miriam, and my daughter, Mushki, and Shneya, the Chatan, that just got married. That was mamish. It's not only that, don't put it on yet. And also, you'll see in the video here, you can see Leilu Nishmat. One second, please don't turn it on yet. My mother's name, Batam Shimshon, Cohen. This comes mamash in the middle of the Shiva. In honor of the bas mitzvah of her granddaughter Miriam. You see Miriam? Yes. And her cousin Miriam, my brother Baruch's daughter, who had a bas mitzvah 2 weeks before that. And my mother and father were zochet to be at the bas mitzvah. And in honor of Shneir Zalman Chaviv to Chavi Goldberg. My mother she lived with the simchas of the family. And you'll see what the Rebbe explains. Unbelievable Shloshim Pratis. This is the week of Chav Shvat, of the passing of the Rebbetzin, the Rebbe's wife, Chaim Mushka. And the Rebbe talks about a neshama, what happens to the neshama, and that the Rebbe's name was Chaya, and the importance of Chaya, and my mother was Chava. Chava, why was Chava called Chava? It says in the Torah, Ki hi hayta em kol chay. So mamash name shel Chaya. Just 1 second, please, Rabbi Diamond. You can move this way, where? You can move over here, one of these chairs. You can move this way. Kulam, toda raba. Everybody, can everybody see? You're okay? Bakasha.
In the year Tavshumeches, I'm a 70-year-old yeshiva student. I'm studying in Crown Heights.
Rabbi Diamond?
770 is our second home. In the winter of 1988, our lives changed.
That's Rabbi walking at the Rechavia. Perfect. Mamash, it's unbelievable that this subject in the Shiva
Parshas HaShavua was motivated in Shabbat and the name is Borchi Nekhet Atadita, but also the Parsha Yisrael, but then it will be there in Shas Matan Teira, that will Borcha Nishmoso, but also the Duglo, when it's nicht nur the Duglo, das ist der Parshas Hayinu shel Istalpus HaNeshama. Und denke von Yad Mama, Shadazira HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Vital Tchia, ook in de Duber kama Pomim, al derg ze heichet, is hier rotze, maar teken van Yad Mamos, tot zijn van Jebe Inyan, was de Dugma ze Amura, het Achiluk Evakam Imal Mamos, in Istalle geworden, aber schon in Lifnise, und dann noch in Jema Jotzeit, wird es noch einmal in du bechadet, al derg ze, und der Paar ist an dem und tegen der Linie, was wird als Chatschus in Amiras Kaddish, was Kaddish in der Chinyoni Ingen Shel Halo, ואף-על-פי was bin Kai mit der Gewinn במשך השונים ובמשך שני שונים ובמשך שלישה שונים וגוון כל משך ימי השון אני גוון כנאמירס קדיש. ידענו ביום היורצייט זה weitergeworden Berlinen Amiras HaKadosh, und sie geworden noch einmal, bitter einmal, an Ali. Und an Ali, schlägt der Zahle Alis, hat Jukris, und laut Teget, und man darf sich nicht erhoben, der Ali, schlägt der Kol Alis, Amuris. Bis wann es wurde, bekam und bekäme es, als Pilot, die Ali, wie der Mond schwer, beschaß Matten Teir, was Porcha nicht musste. is er dan nooit gewend de Herzir HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahem betal Tchio wird wertlos nach einer Aliyah noch größer von jener Aliyah und gefragt noch an die gefühlt sich in der Dei was selber der Dei Rachrin Legolos und Dei Orishim Legiulo und der Duber Kama Pomen Barucho במשך השונים הכי אחרים, ודוס verbunden נכד mit der Aliyah הכי עליונה, was sich verbunden mit Skabes, mit Bechein und Marba Campus Horez und mit Simcha Betur Levo und Davkin להמשך von הנשמה בריאה נגוד בורי, ועל דרך זה איכת in dem Neshomes Akitzur קראנו לשייך מיופות, והסתית in Kisve Harizal, אז זה ושגוון בשעס ביציאס מצרים, דרנו בזכות שלושים צדקוני שבריס הרדי, עולה וסיינו ממצרים, ונכסים וסלקים עליה, לך עליה, אז זה זכת בזכות שלושים צדקוני שבדרנו זה, ובפת הזינו וסום זכי גוון, הקנו וקנו מבני ישראל נקרויס על שמון וזין בבייזן לבדיקים בשם mit lebedike נשומס ולבדיקי גוף מונקין הפסיק ותיזה werden nischanach in ihre Ruach und lebt ihre Anweisungen und lebt ihre Beispiel und sie sich nischanach geworden an der Niside Reno und werden dem Schwer und können über Kama Pomi mit der Sicher, mit Sage sein und mit Kari sein, bis wann es sein, der Male Besboi Veime sehr, Hawaii Kivino, Hawaii Kivino, Yishieno, Kene, Nis, Kuin, und sie wird die Fleim und die Schie der Zweite sehr, Hawaii Kivino, Yishieno, ותקף ומיד ממוש ולא יקרב אפילו כהרף עין, ובנערינו, ובזקנינו, ובבנינו, ובבנינו, אז ממילא תקף ומיד ימנע לשניים, ועל קיצר לנו שכם יופר לכל העניונים והנושים האמורים, בתיכנו ובראשנו, ותקף ומיד ממש.
Amen.
Of the materials from the Living Archive, established by the World Catholic Foundation.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Diamond. And I want to point out that my brother Moshe David is here. It's very, very special to me. My cousins and several people here that I see in the crowd that you know my mother, you know my father personally, and it warms my heart that you're here together with us. I want to point out over here, this is very important. This is an email we set up with a barcode that if you can even now to put it, if you have memories of my mother, please put the email into your phone and you can start writing it. I'd really, really appreciate it so we can get as many, whether if you have pictures or videos or whatever it is, or stories or even personal occurrences, it would be very, very important to all of us, and we'll be able to, Bezrat Hashem, publish something very special in the future. On Thursday night, the night before Tet Shvat, a day and a half before my mother's passing, my brother Baruch calls me up at 2:45 a.m. over here, and he says, Yisrael, you got to come now. And so many details, but the point that I want to say is that, first of all, a big Yasher Koach, a big Akarat Tov, my brother for doing so much for my mother when she was for quite a while in New York. But my wife had an idea that we should do a Zoom, an international Zoom from all of my siblings around the world, and to sing. Thank you. To sing songs together that my mother liked. It was a very, very emotional, very, very difficult. I've never seen my mother in that state, and I knew right away that I should come as soon as possible. Right after Shabbos, I left. Actually, middle of the Shabbat brachas, the middle of Mushki Shabbat brachas. But there were each one of us chose a song that we knew that my mother liked. And so please join me in singing one of the nigunim that my mother liked very, very much. It's Anin Zmirot, and if you know it, please sing along. Oy nafshi chamda b'tzel yadecha In 1983, the Rebbe came out with a campaign of printing the Tanyas around the world, every country, every city, and where there's a community of people, of Jewish people living, there should be a Tanya printed. And the Rebbe explained that when the Baal Shem Tov told his grandson that he had an elevation of his soul, and he asked Mashiach, "Ei matai kati mar, when are you going to come?" The Mashiach Neshama said, "L'chasheyaputzu ma'inotecha chutza." Today, these words are very, very famous. When your well springs will be spread outside into the furthest places. B'diuk. Shabbos Shura, b'bakasha. Thank you very much. And so the Rebbe said that one idea of Lichshiyafutsu, spreading out Chassidus, is teaching Chassidus. But there's also a concept of printing the Tanya. The Tanya we consider to be the Torah Shebechsav of Chassidus. And so the fact itself that there's a Tanya that was printed in a certain country, city, and people see in the shelf, wow, this, it says, for example, Rechavia, by the way, on the Alter Rebbe's 200 yard site 11 years ago, 12 years ago, we printed the Tanya. This was it's not just by chance. We're not allowed to just print the Tanya. There's a whole the whole office in Crown Heights, and it's very organized. If you print the Tanya, then in the back you could see all the prints. Ours is, I think, 6,236, and so the idea of the Tanya. So the printing of the Tanya is something which is very, very special, and obviously in Israel, every little community has the Tanya has been printed there. But my mother wanted to give my father a birthday gift. This is my mother. This is my mother. My mother wanted my father a birthday gift. I believe it was around 8 or 10 years ago, and she found someone. There's no shliach in Afghanistan, but there are maybe very, very few. There are people who go there, undercover, whatever it is. And she had the Tanya printed in Afghanistan in honor of my father's birthday, which is Chav Kislev, one day after Yutet Kislev. And this is an unbelievable state. Who knows spiritually what that accomplished? During the first Lebanon War, for example, 1982, right? So the Rebbe must have come out with this a little before that, because I know that the Rebbe, it was very interesting, when we had our event in Yeshurun, when we printed the Tanya right here in Rechavia, so I brought someone to speak who he himself went into, I think it was Lebanon in one of the wars, with a Chabad mitzvah tank, and they went with a printer and they printed the Tanya. The Rebbe said that this brought bracha for Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, and our soldiers that are fighting for us in Lebanon. And so, in the middle of the crowd, someone got up, and I have no idea who he was. He was a soldier back then, and he said, I remember when the Chabadniks came and printed the Tanya in the war zone. And so that's my mother, to print the Tanya in Afghanistan. She really, really wanted to print it in Azam. And on her behalf, I was in touch with a guy who prints the Tanya. It's very, very complicated. It was printed once or twice, once in Rafiach, and once, I think, in the city of Azaf, if I'm not mistaken. But this was my mother. And so there's one chapter in the Tanya. This is actually the final part of the Tanya. You get it to Kodesh. It's called Lahaskil Chabina. Haperek hazeh Lahaskil Chabina Mo'od Mo'od Yisodi. It basically, in short, what the Alter Rebbe explains over here in this letter, he explains that we have to look at the entire world and everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, even things which might be clearly. Wow. Shalom Aleichem. מקדמים בברכה את הרב סגל, ואת הרב סגל הצעיר, כן, בבקשה, שניכם צעירים. בוא תיכנסו, יש לנו מקום. וואו. זה כבוד גדול של הרב סגל, הסבא, הרב יוסף סגל שליטה, שהוא ראש הכולל כאן בירושלים, שמכיר את האבא שלי והכיר את האמא שלי, כבוד גדול, והבן שלו, הרב יצחק מאיר סגל, רב כאן ברחביה של קהילת חב"ד, מאוד מאוד מרגש אותי ששניכם פה נמצאים, ממש ממש תודה רבה. אז האדמו"ר הזה כן מסביר בלהשכיל חבינה, בקיצור, שאנחנו צריכים אמונה אמיתית בקדוש ברוך הוא, שכל דבר הוא טוב, הכל טוב. The Alter Rebbe says everything is good. My mother was very, very strong in this perek. She taught it, she talked about it, and we took upon ourselves, basically there is a guy here in Israel who does Tehillim with song. He sings, he plays music, and he also says, he puts the words of Tehillim and Pirkei Avot and Tanya so that children and adults can learn the Tanya by heart, just by listening to it. So, about a half a year ago, my mother asked me to speak to this guy. We had this parak of Tanya made, so and unfortunately at the time of the burial, I told my mother that believe neder, I'm going to send this recording to all the schools in the world that we can get to. And so if we have time at the end of the program, we're going to show it. It's a video. It's a video of the words going by. But if we can do that, and we also have over here copies if anybody wants. And Misha wrote Laskil Chabina, even to take it home to say it once a day, once a week, whatever. We have a bunch of these copies. Okay. כמו שהזכרתי לפני כן, שהדבר החשוב ביותר, שזה העניין של השלושים, זה סיום משנייס. The most important, if there's one point which is really the center of a Shloshim event, if you can say that, is the finishing of the Mishnayos. My father is going to make a siyum tonight. In other words, the same time, but Eastern Standard Time, on the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, and we divided it up in Toronto. Over here, we also was very, very special. Many people took Mishnayos over here during the short time that I was sitting Shiva here. And we're going to make a siyum, and I'm going to ask my brother Moshe David to please come up. We'll say Kaddish together. This is the final Mishnah. So many people texted me yesterday and today that they finished the Mishnayos on time, and I really appreciate it. And it's very important that the Mishnayos, the last Mishnah, HaMishnah Achi Achrona, בכל סדרי משנה מדבר על החשיבות של שלום. לא מצא הקדוש ברוך הוא כלי מחזיק ברכה לישראל אלא השלום. וזה בדיוק האמא שלי. My mother always tried in every situation to try to bring peace, to try to bring tranquility amongst people. אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא להנחיל כל צדיק וצדיק 310 עולמות. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give when Mashiach comes to every tzaddik, which means every Jew, because v'amich kulam tzaddikim, 310 worlds. Shne'amar lahanchil oy vayesh v'otzrotehem amalek. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta, la'imot HaKadosh Baruch Hu kli machzik bracha l'Yisrael, ela shalom. Shne'amar Adonai ois la'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech es amoy b'shalom. אפשר בבקשה בסדר? אחד בשנינו? 26, ציין. בבקשה לעמוד, please rise. יסקדה ויסקדה שמי רבה יום יברכה רוסי וימלך מלכוסי ויצמח קורבני ויקרא משיחי תפייק פני ומפני וחיי לכל בית ישראל והגלו בזמן קריב אמרו אמן שמי רבה ברברה ויאמן ואליה יסברך וישתבח ויספר ויסרומם ויסתעשי ויסתדר ויסלל שמי דקודשה ולכל יהי לם לכל ברפסה ושירסה תשבחסה ונחמסה תמירן ביעלמה ואמרו אמן על ישראל ורבנן ועל תלמידי עין ועל כל תלמידי סלמידי עין ועל כל מדסקין ברייסה דיבה עשרה דין ודיבה עשר ועשר יהי אלוהינו לחיים שלום הרב וחינה וחסדה ורחמים וחיים נרניחינו וזיינו רביחה ולפרקנה מן קודם אבוינתי בשמיה ואמרו אמן יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים קודם עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן ויעשה שלום במראים ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. אפשר לשבת ימי בסדר. אחד המידות הטובות של האמא שלי זה עניין של הכרת הטוב. ולכן חשוב לי מאוד להכיר טובה לכמה אנשים. My mother would always show appreciation, הכרת הטוב, and therefore I want to say thank you, as I said earlier, to my brother Baruch, who took such good care of her in New York. My sister Menucha, at home in Toronto over the past half a year. Bashkacha Pratis, her and her husband and her children have been in Toronto, and all of my siblings in Toronto, and all of my siblings around the world who have done so much for my mother, each one in their own way. I want to say thank you to the unbelievable organization in upstate New York. I believe it's called RCCS. Tati, am I right? RCCS? They are unbelievable, the dedication and selflessness, connections that they have. Especially one individual, his name is Ilan. I never knew his last name. I just know Ilan from Ilan. I used to call him Ilan Hamalach, Ilan the angel. And I remember 2 months before my mother's passing, my mother, after her surgery, which was miraculous at the time, she called him up and she was crying out of simcha and appreciation. And then after my mother's passing, I find out by total hashgacha pratis that he is the grandson of my mother's mashpia. My mother's mashpia. So Lange Yoren lives over here in Eretz Yisrael. Unbelievable hashgacha pratis. And to know that he's married to the granddaughter of my mother's mashpia, there was such hashgacha pratis. My father was talking to him and he says, I have children in Australia. So Elon says, my wife is from Australia. Oh yeah? Well, which family? And it turns out within 30 seconds, they figured out that he's mamish. When I called up my mother's mashpia, and I told her she was mamish crying from happiness, from mitrakshut. And I also want to thank Dr. Groudon, who is an unbelievable doctor. He was the only one, when my mother was really suffering 2 months before her passing, he was the only one in the world who agreed. He told us that even his own staff told him, don't do it. I don't want to get into that, but he was a malach, he was mamash an angel, not a Jewish doctor. But I told him when he came out of the surgery, I told him that we believe that a good doctor is a shaliach from Hashem, an emissary from Hashem. I told him, you are an emissary from Hashem. And be'emet, from then until my mother's passing, the care, the understanding, the professionalism on a world level is something literally unparalleled. And so in this special event, I want to say thank you, Dr. Groden from NYU Hospital. It is a great honor for me to introduce a very, very special Rav. I remember being 10, 11 years old, that Rav Segal Shlita would come every year to our home in Cheshvan. And he would stay for a few weeks. It was such a big kavod. It was such a big honor. My parents had the great zchut that many people that I know and I don't even know would come to Toronto and would stay at my parents' home. People tell me they came to Toronto, where do we stay? Go to the Goldbergs. And the achnosas orchim, the outstanding achnosas orchim from my mother was something so special. Kavod gadol b'shvili, levakesh me'arav Segal, Rosh Koilel, Tzemach Tzedek kan b'Yerushalayim, shezachiti lilmod, shana achrei chatuna. וזה מרגש אותי באמת עד עצם הנפש, שהרב הסכים לבוא, להגיד לנו כמה דברי ברכה, כמה דברי תורה, לעילוי נשמת אמא שלי היקרה. הרב, כבוד הרב, בבקשה. תודה רבה.
ערב טוב ושלום רב. קהל נכבד.
I just want to say, after the Rav finishes, I'm going to give a short synopsis in English, but please listen.
שלמה המלך אומר, טוב שם משמן טוב, ויום המוות מיום היוולדו. טוב שם משמן טוב. השם הטוב הוא יותר טוב מאשר השמן הטוב, הפרפיום הכי טוב. למה? כי השמן הטוב, יש לו, הוא קשור לשטח. עד איפה אתה מרגיש את הריח הטוב? הלאה? אתה לא מרגיש. זה במקום. אבל גם בזמן, השמן הטוב הפרפיום, יש זמן שהוא פוקע, מפסיק לתת את הריח הטוב. אבל השם, אם אדם קונה שם טוב, זה לא בשטח הקטן, זה יכול להיות בכל העולם. וזה לא רק בשעתו, אלא מקרין לזמנים, למקומות שהשמן הטוב לא יכול להגיע. והחלק השני, שטוב יום המוות יותר טוב מאשר יום היוולדו. מה זה? כולם יודעים שילד נולד, כולם אומרים מזל טוב, מזל טוב. יום המוות יותר טוב מיום היוולדו. אז כתוב במדרש, דוגמה מאוד מעניינת. שתי ספינות שפוקדות את הנמל, נמל המים, הפורט. יש ספינה אחת שהיא מתכוננת עכשיו לצאת לעולם הגדול, וכולם מריעים לה, כולם שוקעים לה, שרים לה, ואותה ספינה שמגיעה מהים הגדול, מהעולם הגדול, נכנסת בעצמיה, כמעט לא מרגישים שהגיעה. חז"ל אומרים, היה שם פיתח אחד, ואמר היפוך הדברים. הספינה שעכשיו עוזבת את הנמל, והיא צריכה לפקוד את כל הימים. מי יודע אם היא תוכל להתגבר על גלי הים, אולי גלי הים יהיו מדי גבוהים, מדי גדולים, מדי רעשנים. והמזג אוויר, מי יודע, מה השמחה הגדולה הזאת. אבל אותו ספינה שהיא כבר מגיעה מכל העולם, מהימים הגדולים, והיא באה שלמה, לה צריך להריע. כשאדם נולד, לא יודעים מה יהיה איתו, איך הוא יתפתח, מה יהיה היום יום שלו, מה יהיה החיים שלו, איך הוא יחיה עם ציבור, איך הוא יחיה עם הבן זוג שלו, ואיך הוא יעזוב את העולם, אי אפשר לדעת. אבל אם אדם עוזב את העולם, ויודעים מה הוא עשה בכל הזמנים, והוא נפרד מהעולם בשם טוב, אז טוב שם משמן טוב ויום המוות מיום היוולדו. בסיפור הזה של אלישע, שהגיעה שם, ושם אישה גדולה כתוב, ושם אישה גדולה. מה פשט אישה גדולה? במה היא גדולה? אז בתרגום כתוב, היא דחיל חטאן, היא יראת שמיים. גברת גולדברג, כל כך קשה לדבר על האישה הזאת, שכבר אינה בין החיים. אישה משכילה, לבונה, טובת לב, דיברו על הכרת הטוב. כל המידות הטובות אתה ראית שם, ואת ההשראה שהיא השרתה בבית, אותו זוג נחמד, דוקטור גולדברג, שיחיה לאורך יום טוב ושנה טבע, יחד עם אשתו, זה היה דוגמה של זוג נחמד, עם כל מה שברוך השם הקימו בית, מרובת ילדים בלי עין רע. אבל ראית איך שכל ילד וכל ילדה זה כמו בן יוכי. הייתם צריכים לראות אם אותו ילד הגיע מהחדר, שלום עליכם, חיבוק, נישוק, בית עם מרובת ילדים, וכל ילד הרגיש כמו שהוא בן יחיד. אותו ילדה שהגיעה מהבית ספר, שלום, מחבקת אותה, משקת אותה. מה קרה? מה הגיעה מחוץ לארץ? הגיעה סך אומר, כל יום ככה. יצא לי כמה פעמים להתעסק בבית הזה. אני ראיתי לשום אישו אחר, כתבי לו. יראת שמיים, מקפידה, קלה כבחמורה. שילוב כזה, גם יראת שמיים, גם אישה נבונה מאוד, מלומדת, וגם טובת לב. והיא שהייתה כל פעם עם צחוק על הפנים. זו הייתה אישה מיוחדת. בסוף במדרש, בקהלת, סוף המדרש, כתוב כך, סוף דבר, אלוקים ירא ואת מצוותיו שמור, כי זה כל האדם. כתוב במדרש, סוף דבר, בסופו של חיים של אדם. שואלים בפמליה של מיילה, דרך של המיילו, על אדם שעזב את העולם. אדם זה, יראי שמיים היה, כאשר היה, מה הבריות אומרות עליו? אני שואל אתכם, בעולם האמת צריך את החוות דעת של אנשים מאוילום הזה. כאן זה אוילום השקר, שם זה עולם האמת, הם יודעים את הכל. מה הם צריכים לה? מה הבריות אומרות עליו? הרי זה מלמדנו שלא רק כאן, אלא גם באוילום האמס, מתחשבים מה הבריות אומרות עליו. כמו שחז"ל אומרים דבר אחר, כל שאהוב על הבריאוס הוא גם אהוב על המוקרים. אנחנו יכולים להגיד בפה מלא, האישה הזאת, יראת שמיים הייתה, כשירה במעשיה, טובת לב, גדולה במעשים. כשפלא של מעלה שומעים, שזה דעת הבריות, מיד מיטתה פורחת לאוויר. זה לשון המדרש. אין לי שום ספק שגברת גולדברג יש לה מקום מאוד טוב. המעשים שלה, איזה התמסרות של חינוך לילדים, איך היה נוגע לה כל ילד, גם כשהוא התקדם מאוד, וגם אם לתקופה קצרה התרשל או סטה קצת הצידה קצת. זה היה החיים שלה, הילדים. לצערנו רואים בעולם שמצד נטל הכלכלה, האבא עסוק בפרנסה, וגם האישה, אז מי מחנך את הילדים? העוזרת. לצערנו, קורה דברים כאלה. ובמקומות כאלה ששניהם עסוקים בעבודה, צריך רחמי שמיים שמהבית הזה יגדלו ילדים כמו שצריך להיות, עם מידות טובות, מחונכים, פשוט מחונכים. את החינוך העיקרי מקבלים בבית. צניעות של ילדה, לא הבית ספר נותן את זה. הבית. המידות טובות, הבית. הבית ספר נותן כיוונים, מסייע, אבל הבית היוצר לנשמות ישראל, זה הבית, לכן כל כך חשוב השלום בית של הבעל והאישה, לא רק כחיים לעצמם, אלא ממש כדוגמה. מספרים על רב מנדל מקוסט, אחד מהאדמו"רים, כל אמרה שלו היא נוקבת, חריפה. אז פעם בא אדם לבניו ואמר, לא הולך לו עם הילד. אני כל כך הרבה מסביר לו למה הוא צריך ללמוד, למה הוא צריך להתעלות בלימודים, ולמה הוא צריך להגיע להישגים. זה לא עוזר. אמר לרב מנדל מקוסט, אתה טועה? זה כן עוזר. ההשתדלות שלך פועלת. אמר רבי, הוא לא רואה את זה. אמר, למה אתה לא מבין? מה אתה נותן לילד? אומרים לו, אתה מסביר לו ממאמרי חז"ל ומדברי היגיון, למה שצריך לשבת וללמוד. גם הוא יעשה את זה לבן שלו. הוא לומד ממך מה צריך לעשות. צריך לדבר על הלימוד, לא מתוך הלימוד. אם היה רואה אותך יושב ולומד, זה היה דוגמה. אז הוא צריך להגיד את כל הנאומים האלה. המבין הכי טוב זה הבן והבת. הבית של משפחת גולדברג, חיים, שיחיה לאויר יום משלום טייבס, הוא הרי רופא מומחה, שמחכים בתור לניתוחים חיים. הייתם צריכים לראות כל רגע פנוי, הוא יושב ולומד. חדר מלא ספרים. יום ראשון ודאי, כל היום. הוא עסוק רק בלימודים ובמתן צדקה. בית לתפארת. מה מלבית בית לתפארת? יעזור הקדוש ברוך הוא, שגברת גולדברג תהיה מליצת יושר, יש כל הבעלה, שיחיה לו יום ראשון עם הילדים, הילדות, עם כל המשפחה, שהשם יחזק אותם. בירושלים של פעם, כשהיו מנחמים את האבלים, שאומרים המקום מנחם אתכם, היו מוסיפים ברכה לאבלים. והיה המחנה הנשאר לפליטה. כמו שנאמר לגבי יעקב, שפגש ניזר. אז כך אנחנו צריכים לברך את כל משפחת גולדברג, והיו המחנה הנשאר, כל אלו שנשארו לחיות, שיחיו בטוב ובנעימים ובבריאות השלמה, והשם יעזור שלא נדע כבר משום צער ויגון. עם ישראל נמצא עכשיו בזמנים כאלה שאם אדם הוא לא עיוור, הוא חש ממש השגחה פרוטיס על כל צעד ושעל. ניסים גלויים מה שקורה כאן, זה אי אפשר לתאר. אי אפשר למנות את זה, אי אפשר לתאר את זה. הרי אנחנו נמצאים בחודש אדר, זה חודש שלא רק שהיום נהפך לטובה ולברכה, אלא לנהפך, כן? אלא גם כן החודש נהפך, והמפח יום ומפח חודש, והחודש אשר נהפך להם לטובה ולברכה. זו רק הקדוש ברוך הוא שיהיה זמן כגורים באמת, שיהיה חודש טוב ומבורך, וכבר בקרוב ממש נזכה לגאולה השלמה ממשיח צדקנו, ובקרוב ממש גם עם תחיית המתים, וגברת גולדברג ביניהם, וכן יהי רצון שנזכה ונחיה ונראה טוב וברוך במהרה בימינו, אמן.
Yeshakach Lefod Arav. Thank you very much to Rav Segal. He spoke beautiful words about about how a person that has a good name is much greater than having, it's the translation from Shlomo HaMelech, and having a good perfume, a good smell. A good smell, it takes up a certain amount of space and also a certain amount of time. But having a good name, there are no limits to it. It can be an entire world, it can be forever and ever. You do good things, good midot, good lessons, and it stays forever. And Rav Segal said beautifully about he was many times in our home, and he saw the unbelievable chinuch, the unbelievable education and devotion. It's so true. As he was speaking, I was thinking of so many examples. But he's saying even a child comes home from school, and my mother always welcomed as if he came home after half a year from Chutz La'aretz. Every day, this can be the same thing: the love, the caring, and Baruch Hashem, having 14 children is not a simple task, including one set of twins that were undiagnosed twins, and it was really my mother is a model for us of what it means to really care about every single child and to make sure that everyone feels that they care. And I spoke about my father who was listening, about every single spare moment of learning with the children, learning himself whenever he was home. And so this is something which is very, very special that Yeshakach Todah Rabak for the Rav. Before Yutet Kislev, which is just about 2 months before my mother's passing, my mother said that she wants to speak at the Yutet Kislev women's event in Toronto. And this is my mother. Every place that she was able to inspire to be mashpia, matai ve'be'ezeh izdanut tamid chipsa izdanuyot lelamed, lishatef ve'lashpia. And so, I don't know how many people will do this. I don't know anybody else. My mother, she decided that she's going to call the people in charge, the women in charge of the Yutet Kislev Farbrengen in Toronto, the women's Farbrengen, and that she wants to speak only 5 minutes. And I spoke to her a couple of times about the subject. On a personal level, the point that she wanted to explain was a sikha from the Rebbe, Hoshana Rabbah Tavshin Mem Daled, Sukkos, 1983. I remember my mother took us to Lubavitch down south in Toronto to hear the Rebbe's, to hear the hookup. It was a broadcast, and I remember the Rebbe crying during this Rebbe. It was little Sukkos, Hoshana Rabbah. But the Rebbe was crying, and the Rebbe said, you'll hear in a second, I was able to get yesterday a video of my mother speaking. It's about a 5 or 6 minute video. Unbelievable that we're able to get it. But you see my mother getting into it. And this is mamish. You can't tell that anything is wrong with her. So many people were surprised when they heard that she passed away. But this was her. She made sure that she was so focused on her mission that nothing stood in her way. She was determined in every way possible. When she used to have a shir in Tehillim for many years. I told the women that came to Nachlaot, I said, if during the last few months, if she couldn't do the shir, I promise you, because she really couldn't do the shir. But if she was able to do the shir, sometimes on Zoom, especially towards the end, and sometimes more often in person, this was her life. This was her life. Between 11 and 12, she has her shir. If I was talking to her, okay, call me back at 12. I have a shir now. I can't continue our conversation right now. This was mamish kodesh kodashim for her. And so the Rebbe says over there, when Mashiach comes, we're going to say, Oitcha Hashem ki anaftabi. We're quote unquote going to thank Hashem for the pain and suffering that we encountered during the time of Galut. And the Rebbe says over there that we're not allowed to, right now, before Mashiach comes, we're not allowed to rationalize how it's possible that it's good. We know everything Hashem does is good. It says right here, we know the Alter Rebbe says, we said it earlier, that everything Hashem does is good, but not always do we see the good. If a person is going to rationalize, if we're going to try to rationalize now, before Mashiach comes, how it's good, we know that it is good. We don't understand how it's good. And if we're going to try to rationalize how it's good, then we're not going to we're not going to say, Ad Matai, we're not going to daven to Hashem with our whole heart and soul that Mashiach should come. And so this was my mother's 5 minutes approximately that
Speak into it? That's good. So I did ask to speak tonight so that maybe not Mashiach or maybe Mashiach. But I have a message that I hope that will resound with everyone and make a difference. First of all, I'm going to have to say the Tehillim of the evening. Please follow me. We have 3 Tehillim. The first one is Kapitel Chav. We know why we say Kapitel Chav. It's deafening for help, for everything, for all the Yeshuas that people need. Please excuse me if I cry. I cry at every little word that's emotional, but I'll try and control myself. But there's nothing I can do about it. L'Messiah, Yadcha Adonai B'yom Tzara Yisagecha Shem Elohei Yaakov Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh U'Mizion Yisagecha Yizkor Kol Minchosecha V'Lascha Yedashne Tzela Yitain L'cha Chilvadecha L'chol Atzazcha Yimale Niranana B'Yeshuasecha V'Shem Eloheinu Niko Yimale Adonai Kol Mishalasecha Ata Yadati Ki Hoshia Adonai Shai Yanein Yaneinu Mishnei Kachai V'Uros Yeshav Yinai Eile Barecha Eile Susim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nazkir Ehem HaKaru V'Kavalu V'Anachnu Kavalu V'Nisodad Adonai Mashiach HaMelech Yaneinu V'Yam Kareinu. Next kapitel is Kapitel Kuf, number 100. And Kapitel Kuf is Mizmor L'Soya, is thanking Hashem for all the chasadim, and this is Vashkacha Pratis, exactly what I'm going to be speaking about. I have 5 minutes, and I give you my word, I will not speak a second more than 5 minutes. I hope it will be even less. But I told them, not longer than 5 minutes. Mizmor L'Soya, a very famous parent to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mizmor L'Soya, Hariyim Adonai Kol Ha'aretz. Es Adonai B'Simcha, Voyu Lefana Birnana, Dehu Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Hu Adonu Zoloi Anach. We are His. Amoy B'Tzon Marisol, Voyu Shara B'Soida, Hatei Reisa B'Sila. Hoidu Adonai Baruch Shoi, Kitoy Adonai L'Olam Chasdoi, V'Hador V'Dor Emunasoi. I really want to the reddest kapitel of Gimel. We are Shir HaMarlon Es Egai Hayashvi B'Shamayim Hinei Cheinei Avadim Amrad Adonechem Keinei Shifcha El Yad Yirtah Kein Einenu El Adonai Eloheinu Ad Shir Chaneinu Chaneinu Adonai Chaneinu Ki Rav Sabanu Uz Rabat Sabah Nashenu Hagav Hashamanim Haguz L'Yeyonim. I'm going to quote ladies. I had a miracle.
Nope, go ahead.
A miracle happened to me. I had many miracles in the last several months. I came out of the hospital in New York on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and that was the same day that the Rebbe went from 770 from his hospital room in 770 back home. And I was wondering, what was the message that I should take from my going home and the Rebbe's going home? What was the message that I'm going to take from these 2 events happened on the same day? The Navi Yeshayahu tells us that when Mashiach comes, we're going to be saying, Odcha Hashem ki, what's the word? Anachtavi. I say it all the time. You're standing up here and the words slip your head. Odcha Hashem ki anachtavi. When Mashiach comes, we are going to be thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the challenges He gave us while in Galus. But the Rebbe tells us that it's very important not to say these words while we're in Galus. You know, I had a miracle, I had many miracles, everybody has had miracles. And we can say, oh, Hashem made me a miracle. Oh, the Galus is great. It's fine. But the Rebbe is saying that the Navi Yeshayahu is telling us clearly that when Mashiach comes, we will thank Hashem. But today, until we see the Rebbe walking in through the doors, we cannot and should not say, Odcha Hashem ki anachtavi. We cannot look at our miracles as being a source of gratefulness for the Galus. Why? So the Rebbe says in a Sikha, it's Hashem Rabbi Tashi Mevlav, it's 1970, my husband told me 1986. On Hashanah Rabbah, the Rebbe discussed this, and he said clearly that as long as we thank Hashem for our challenges while we're in Galus, as long as we feel that Galus is okay, we will not be demanding, Bias Gold says, the words Lishuaska Kivinu Kol Hayom, that for your salvation.
Wow. You can imagine yourself that the words that my mother is saying is at many meetings. And I want to finish off before we give out a special shura. What we put together is, as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the amazing things that my mother has done is, especially for the past at least 10 years, when she gave out Mishloach Manos, it wasn't just Mishloach Manos on Purim, but she made a rhyme. Each rhyme was several paragraphs, and it had to do with a Sikha, a Maimer from the Rebbe, which had to do around that time, either in connection with Purim or the year. And so you're welcome to have one. And so just before we give this out, I want to mention the Rebbe always talks about something practical that we can take and something special that we can add. So first of all, those of us that knew my mother, and if not, you heard tonight a bunch of things, and there's so much more to say. But something special to take with yourself, that would be very, very special, and my mother can live on in your hearts as well. Laskil Chabina, I said earlier, we have a card over here. A lot of people took the cards during the Shiva, and so you're welcome to take one, and once in a while, or as often as you can, to learn this parak, and it should actually become part of us. And as I mentioned, that we're going to be sending around. I'm going to put it on now after we finish just the song, so we can see how we're going to encourage as many children as possible. We're all children of all ages, to learn the Tanya. If you want to send me a message, I'm going to be sending it around soon. I'm also going to be sending around also the email, so that if you know my mother, you're something special, please send an email. My mother's first name, mother's last name, memories@gmail.com. That'll be very special. There's also the QR code is also there as well. There's also a very big project, B'ezrat Hashem, that we're thinking about. So B'ezrat Hashem, in the right time, we'll be able to bring it to everyone. And last but not least, a new minyan that we started for Mincha and Mariv, also with the Rambam in the middle. So there's a chapter of Rambam that we learn every day, and that's special. If you're able to come, please strengthen. It'll be very, very meaningful. It'll be very, very special to us. And the main thing is that we should continue to do. We should have B'serot Tovot. We should be able to do good activities in my mother's memory. And as it says that the neshama, after the neshama passes away, cannot do any more mitzvahs, practical mitzvahs. So every time we do a mitzvah, we have the person person in mind, so that we are their mouths, we are their hands, we are their eyes, we are their feet. Going to do mitzvahs and having them in mind can be very, very special for our Aliyat Neshama. We should be able to have the resurrection of all of our loved ones and all of Am Yisrael, all the tzaddikim from all the generations, right here in Yerushalayim, immediately now, take it from Yad Mamish. Toda Rabba, thank you so much. Mamash ma'arich shekulam higiu, מאוד חשוב. תודה רבה, שם פרטי? שם פרטי שלך. תודה רבה לאלקנה על הזום, and thank you very much to Mordechai and Raya for the video. תודה רבה.